Hello and welcome to my Dungeon Defenders 2 Beginner's Guide. We have a lot to cover today, so I have timestamps in the description, and let's get right into it. Alright, so starting off, once you've completed the campaign, you'll now have daily missions, weekly missions, as well as your normal quest rewards. Continuing forward, try to do the daily missions and weekly missions as much as you can because these give a lot of Defender medals and Battle Pass XP. Battle Pass XP is pretty nice, you get some extra rewards, but Defender medals is going to be the main reward that we're after here, as we are going to need a lot of these. You get one new daily mission per day, and you can hold up to 3. So this is 3 days worth of daily missions that I have. And you can re-roll 1 per day. I typically like to do the ones that require you to do incursions. And now if you look at the war table, you'll see that it's opened up. You'll now have access to expeditions, onslaught, mastery, incursion, survival, and adventures. Adventures is what we're going to be primarily focused on right now, as this is where our main quest is taking us to. But these also give really good rewards. The first time you kill every one of these guys, you'll get some rewards, including 450 gems, which you can use to buy another base space, which is what I recommend you use those gems on. On screen now, you'll see the rewards that you get for completing each of the ventures the first time, as well as the rewards that you will get when you complete all the main storyline quests. Following the path on the screen, left being for the town, right being for tavern, I'm going to take you to see Grand Master. Here's where we can buy shards. Right now, we want to buy the auto repair shard. It's a Chaos 9 shard. It is going to make such a difference when it comes to playing. It's 1,000 defender medals, but it is so worth it. And now let's upgrade both the auto repair shard as well as the fortification shard that we just got. To do this, on PC it's control plus left click. If you're on console, it tells you what the buttons are right down here. I'd recommend upgrading these both with gold because we'll need the defender medals for later. Now let's throw both of those on our blockade, and this will make just absolutely so much difference. Once you're done with the adventures, it's time to move on to expeditions. This is also known as chaos. So anytime you hear someone say chaos, or me say chaos, but it's not just me, everyone says chaos, you know what we're talking about. The first thing that's mentioned on this page is the chaos levels. Here you can see we're at chaos 1. Using the arrows, we can change it to chaos 2, 3, 4, 5, and up to 10. As you see that, it says attain champion score of something in red, and we don't have enough. Up here, you can see our current champion score, and to get to Chaos 2, we have to have 580. Right now, I only have 228. Speaking of champion score, this seems like the perfect spot to start talking about it. Here at the top, where this crown is, 228, that is my current champion score. Now, if we look at our heroes, my Squire has 164, Huntress has 228, Apprentice 143, and Monk 95. That's the champion score that each of those heroes have. The champion score that your account has, the one that pulls from chaos levels, is based on your hero with the highest champion score. So let's talk about how champion score is actually calculated. If we look at these two pieces of gear here, the one on the left has a score of 212, and the one on the right has a score of 300. Now the way your champion score is actually calculated is the average of the score of all of your gear, which is your helmet, gloves, chest, and boots, as well as your weapon. Relics do not add to champion score. Even though they have a score rating, it does not actually add to the champion score of the hero. And back at the war table. Here let's talk about the chaos tiers, the different enemies that come with the chaos tiers, as well as all these different regions and what they offer that is different from one another. So let's go up to the advanced section at the top right of the screen here. Starting off with Chaos 1, we have new enemy vanguards, highly trained deflection experts, and masters of frontal shield defensive tactics. In English, this means that these guys take less damage from the front. Projectiles don't do as much because they're hitting the shield. It's a big old shield. So to get around this, attacking them with something, say a flame aura, that would go underneath them, it would damage them, and then they wouldn't be able to use their shield. So that would be how you counteract that guy. Moving on to Chaos 2, we have new enemies, cyborgs. Orcs utilize rare elements in their weapons and armor that serve to disable a variety of traps, auras, and nodes. So now compared to the Vanguards, we have the opposite problem. These guys are basically immune to auras because they constantly shut them down. So to get around that, we should use traps that have frontwards projectiles. We're back to using projectiles now. And now Chaos 3. This is the last one I'll talk about in this video. But if you look here, there's a sticker, and this is the sticker of the Vanguard. That means that you'll be running across these in this Chaos level. And now for the Chaos 3 enemy, we have new enemy Geodes, ancient war devices that have been deployed to deflect incoming projectile attacks. Basically, we're back to using flame auras on this set. So really what it comes down to, in this game, at least in the early stages, is about adapting your strategy to fit the enemies that you're fighting. So we went from flame auras to projectiles, back to flame auras. And now I'm not saying that you have to play this game this exact way, and there's always ways around it. For example, one of the favorite things that I use is Piercer's Herfo. It's a mod for your relics, and you can put it on, that way your projectiles pierce shields, because I like using projectile towers. But I'm also not saying that you have to use a certain type of defense, because I'm a firm believer that you can use any type of defense in the game, and it will work. It's just that you have to build it right, and for the job that you are trying to do with it. For me now, I use Skeletal Knights, and they work absolute wonders for me. And they're the only tower I use, but I spent a lot of time building them and perfecting their build so that they can do every level for me. And one last thing while we're sitting here at the war table is that different regions give different materials. Later on, when you're upgrading equipment, you'll see that here it takes a certain type of material. To get this, just look at the materials found down below here, and then change the region, and then you can see it changes. So find the region that gives the material that you're looking for and just grind it out. And here's the lists of the different maps and regions that drop these different materials. Now it might look a little confusing, but I'm going to break this down real quick. On the left hand side, the green, these are all the plain materials. You get these from playing on Chaos 1 to 3, and they're used to upgrade Chaos 1 to 3 equipment. In the middle is shiny materials. These drop from Chaos 4 to 6, and you use them to upgrade Chaos 4 to 6 equipment. And on the right is pristine, and these drop from Chaos 7 to 9, and you guessed it, you use them to upgrade Chaos 7 to 9 equipment. Also, some maps drop more materials than others. The reason for this is that these are boss maps and are harder. Also, the higher the Chaos level you play on, the more of the material that you get. So to maximize your material game plan, the hardest Chaos level, that drops the material type that you're looking for. Let's take a moment to talk about gear and rarities. You can see here I have a green relic, a blue relic, purple, and gold. The green relic only gets 1 shard spot, whereas the blue gets 2, purple gets 3, as well as gold. This gets to be important because, as you see here, I have 2 shards on the explosive trap, but because the green relic only gets to activate 1 shard, the second shard is not active. Also, it's worth noting when you equip shards, it's not going on the relic, it's going on to the slot for the defense. So you can unequip this relic at any point and put a new one on, and the shards stay. Instead, mods is what stays on the piece of equipment itself. On this one, we see we have a quintuple chip, level 3. And on this one, we have a healthy power chip, level 1. And the cool thing about these is that even though they're on 2 different pieces of gear, as long as it is the same piece of gear, as in these are both helmets, you can transfer one mod from one piece of gear to another piece of gear. From talking to this guy right here. You put the piece of gear you want to keep on this side. You put the gear that has the mod you want to transfer on this side. And you can just transfer it on over. And now you have one piece of gear with 2 mods on it. Because we're talking about equipment, this seems like the perfect transition. Let's talk about upgrading equipment. Now if you look here, you can see the crown. This means that this is campaign level. And then down here it's level 10 out of 10. This means it's 10 out of 10 for campaign. Campaign is the lowest level. And then it goes up to Chaos 1, and then 2, and then up to 10. 10 being the highest that is out right now as I'm making this. But they release new Chaos levels from time to time, so that will change. But we're getting sidetracked. Let's back to it. Now let's upgrade it to Chaos 1, just so you can see. So we upgrade it to Chaos 1. So now it is Chaos 1, and is level 0 out of 10. Each time you bring it to the next chaos level, it resets the level, and then you have to re-go to 10 before you can go to the next chaos level. So I just max leveled it, and now we can take it to chaos 2. Now that I told you about that, now I can tell you that I don't actually recommend doing this. Not for a while, at least. I would just keep auto-equipping gear until you find the need arise that you actually need to be upgrading gear instead of just auto-equipping, which won't happen for a while. But one thing that could happen relatively soon, at least I do this from time to time, is advancing it. Advancing it means you can take it from one rarity to the next, in this case green to blue. Usually it's pretty cheap, so it's not really the end of the world doing this. It does get more expensive as you get higher chaos levels, but when you get higher chaos levels, you're usually more prepared anyways. At this point of the game, I do recommend doing this so that you get your shard spots. And you can upgrade it to purple pretty easily, and that way you have the max of 3. As long as you actually have 3 shards to put on it, then it is worth it. Let's take a moment to talk about bags, gear, bag space, and auto collecting. At the top right of the screen here, you can see bag options. This is where we can turn on auto collect. You can select what heroes it will auto collect for, the rarity it will auto collect for, and what it auto collects. I keep this bag on auto collecting weapons, armor, relics, and eggs, whereas I keep this bag auto collecting shards. Typically I keep the rarities and the heroes always checked to all. In different bags I have collecting different things. If you have only one bag, I would set this to collect all as well. And through time, when you get more bags, then you can change it to be different bags collecting different things as you like. From completing the main quest, you will get an extra bag space, as well as you'll get gems by completing all the adventures, and that will give you the ability to buy another bag. Occasionally they do go on sale for 50% off. You can try and save it and wait for that, but it does seem like it comes around pretty rarely. I've only seen it once. I just bought them out of the sale because I wanted bag space now. And if you do have any plans to spend money on this game, I would recommend buying all the bags. I find it to be very worth it. I don't like having to worry about my inventory all the time. But if you aren't spending money, you can always come to the bank, and here you'll get a couple free bank vaults. You'll get 3 for free in total once you complete all the quests, and this can help you a lot if you only have 1, 2, or 3 bags. Now let's talk about a little bit about what I recommend you actually keep. So if you go over to this bag, you see I have it full of gear right now, and if you hold shift on PC, and down here it will tell you what to press if you're on console, it will bring up the mod levels for every piece of gear on this page. So if you look at the bottom right, it will tell you there's a 2. That means that the highest level mod on this piece of gear is level 2. And scrolling across, the highest level on this row would be level 4. I wouldn't recommend keeping any piece of gear that has a level below a 7. Even 7's a little iffy. I aim for 8, 9, or 10. 10 is very rare. And 7 is something I would keep if the mod looks cool. And that's going to be up to you, really. I don't have time in this video to go over all the mods and what I recommend keeping. But if we quickly scroll over this page, we can see down here I have a level 9 mod. And so I am going to keep this. So I'm going to lock it. And that way, when I sell all on this page, it won't sell that. As well as I'm going to keep these 2 dino eggs. And now I'm going to press Y to sell all. Again, if you're on console, it will say down here. Because the rest of that gear is bad. A couple more things worth keeping, I'd say, is going to be all these crafting materials. As well as these pet boxes. So you can open these to get pet food, which you use to upgrade your pets, as well as other ingredients, and you can stack these in your inventory to take up a lot less inventory space than if you were to open them. So if you're low on inventory, just keep them and don't open them until you need them. Shard dust can be worth keeping, and the way this works is once you get 10 of a single type, then you can exchange that for another shard of that type. So if you get 10 campaign shard dust, you can exchange that for 1 campaign shard. These can be important but if you're low on inventory space, it's not something that I would prioritize. The way you get shard dust is by selling shards. I would recommend keeping shards that you think are cool, and some of that is going to be up to you. I have my recommendations like destruction and fortification. Those are two really good ones. I'd keep those. I would recommend keeping duplicates because the way it works is when you fully upgrade a shard, then you can evolve it to become a gilded shard, which unlocks extra levels. And to do that, you'll need 10 more shards of that same exact type. And now if we take these eggs over to the stable boy and hatch them, the reason why I keep these is because anytime you hatch, there's a chance that you'll get a legendary dino. And just like that, that worked out so perfectly. So that is a legendary pet. And eventually you will want to have legendary pets for all of your heroes, even the ones that only build defenses, and that's because you can set these up to give stats for the defenses that the hero that this is equipped on. I'm not going to go super in depth into this right now. I will have a separate guide about that, but just know legendary pets, important for all heroes. Once you reach level 50 on any of your given heroes, then you will start working on Ascension levels. Mine is really high. I don't expect you to have this many at this point, but the things I talk about still work the same regardless of what Ascension level you are. And if you are not Ascension level yet, just keep watching because it will take effect once you actually get to Ascension level, which won't be long because getting to level 50 isn't that time consuming. But anyways, once you get to Ascension level, you can spend your Ascension level points to get additional bonuses. Right here you can see Ascension, and so we're going to go in here and check out the Ascension levels. Now right away you'll see there's 3 trees: offense, defense, and utility. As you level up, it will split your points evenly between these 3 levels. And this is going to be my recommendation for the upgrade progression in each tree. Starting off with the offense tree, usually there's going to be a couple skills here that only require 20 points. I typically upgrade these first because they are pretty high value, and then I dump the rest of the points into hero damage, and then if there's any left over, then hero health. Moving on to the defense tree, figure out what type of defense you want to do with this hero. This is my squire, and I use him to make blockades. So I'm putting all my points into spike blockade health. Switching gears to my apprentice, I use him to make DPS towers. In this case, always max defense speed. This should be the first thing you max if you use this hero for DPS defenses. After that, choose the defense that you want to use primarily. In my case, I'm doing Earth Shatter Tower and then max defense power on that. In the utility tree, always max the gambit for the defense tower that you're using. Yes, it's minus defense power, but you get defense range, which is very much worth it. And I'll show you exactly how big of a difference this is just in a minute. After this, max out defense crit chance and defense crit damage. And then the rest is just kind of up to you. If all you do is build defenses with this hero, then put points into movement speed. If you use him to DPS, then prioritize hero crit chance and then hero crit damage. And finally, just max ability resource at the very last. And now to demonstrate the difference on the ranged gambit, we're going to take an Earth Shatter Tower that doesn't have any range buffs on it at all and line it up so it's touching this guy's feet. And this is the one that has ranged gambit, and this one is also touching this guy's feet. Yeah, as you can see, with the range gambit, it is an absolute huge difference. It's very much worth getting in exchange for just a little bit of power. So, because Ascension levels is limited, I recommend having only 1 defense per hero. In this case, I use my Squire to build the blockade. I use my Huntress to build the Poison Dart Tower. I use my Apprentice to build the Earth Shatter Tower. And I use my Monk to build the Flame Aura Tower. Doing it this way means that each defense is going to have the maximum amount of Ascension levels, and it makes such a difference. Okay, now let's talk about the general strategy that I recommend using. Now, I like to use the Squire to make spike blockades, so I'm going to do that. So I'm going to take a relic that has the primary stat of defense health. I'm going to put that on my spike blockade. And then we should also have the auto repair system that we bought together, as well as fortification. And these should both be max level. And then we're going to take this and place our spike blockades. Now for this lane, this is a little interesting, but I find if you do something like a spike blockade here and another blockade here, this works out pretty well. The general rule is if you can run by these blockades, so can the enemies. So this one you can run along the right side a little bit. So I'm going to try and reposition this just a bit. Right there, you can't run through the middle. You can't run through the side. So this will work. Moving on to defenses. And again, this is just what I recommend. I do believe that any defense can work. It's just that these, to me, are the easiest ones with the least amount of work, because they just work really good by themselves. All right. So the Huntress and her poison dart towers, plus the Wizard and the Earth Shatter towers. These two combined, this doing earth damage, this doing poison damage, means that the status effects combine on the enemies and petrify them. This is a really strong status effect, and I'm going to have a separate video talking about all the status effects and what they do, but just for now, know if you can combine status effects, it makes for some powerful crowd control combos. And for the relic setup, I would look for a relic that has the primary stat being defense power. Throw that on. And then you should have a destruction shard after completing the adventures. And we're going to throw that on. And then if you have it, throw on a defensive critical damage. Now, I don't say you need to upgrade this, but if you have it at level 0, I'd definitely throw it on. 4% extra critical damage is really nice. If you are struggling, then upgrade it, but I wouldn't upgrade it unless you start struggling. And the same goes for the Wizard's Tower, except if you can find a relic that has the Shatterquake mod, even if it's a lower level, like I'll use a relic that has Shatterquake that's multiple chaos tiers lower than what I'm playing at, just because Shatterquake is super, super powerful. And it pairs really, really well with the Huntress's Poison Dart Tower Poison. It makes it so that enemies just get petrified so much more often. On the opposite side, I'm going to place 2 Splag Blockades. And I'm going to use the Monk to build Flame Aura Towers. And the build for this is going to be the same. You're going to look for a relic that has a primary stat of defense power, and then destruction, max level. As well as, if you have it, just to throw it on for a little bit of extra stats, you can throw on defense critical damage. And the way I like to build these flame auras is I like to take one and kind of tuck it up a little bit like this. And then over here, I place one. Over here, I place one. This makes it so that enemies coming down the middle. Through here, they're taking 2 flame auras for damage. Here, they're taking 3 flame auras for damage. And then typically when they're melee attacking, they're actually a little bit further away. So they should be taking still 2 flame auras worth of damage when they're attacking these barricades. And if you have extra mana at the end, I would take 1 more flame aura and push it up like this, just to help out a little bit with the ranged enemies. Or do something else. I mean, you could always put a Earth Shatter Tower in the very back. I do like doing these because the range on these is very big, and Earth Shatter Towers are just very strong. So there's always ways, workaround ways. It's just about coming up with something that you like to do. Now let's talk about some other shards that I recommend getting but at later chaos tiers. So at chaos 2, you're going to unlock Encroaching Flames for the Flame Aura. And this is a pretty cheap shard to upgrade, and it adds a lot of damage to your Flame Aura. Definitely would add this on. At chaos 3, we unlock something huge, and this is going to be Shielding Guard. I would not leave chaos 3 until you get this shard, max level it, and put it on your barricades. Also at chaos 3, we unlock Deadly Strikes. This increases the defense range of the affected tower by 39% when fully upgraded. This is absolutely massive. Just throw it on whatever damage tower that you're using. Next, at chaos 4, we get Defense Rate. And this is also a huge upgrade. Max level it as soon as you can and throw this on as well. And then at chaos 5, and this is specific to the Poison Dart Tower, you get Explosive Poison. If an enemy poisoned by the Poison Dart Tower dies, it detonates, dealing 10% of defense power as damage and applying the poison in a small area around the enemy. Yeah, that's a mouthful, but it does area of effect poison damage. Mix that with the area of effect earth damage that you have from Shatterquake, and you are going to be petrifying guys a lot with this combo. So I would take off Deadly Strikes and put on Explosive Poison. And this is something that upgrade is nice. It's a bit expensive though, so I wouldn't say it's a super priority. Just the area of effect poison is enough. For the same reason that Shatterquake is just so good. Just having area of effect, it makes for so many more petrifications. And one last thing that I want to talk about, and that is going to be Pylons. Now, this is something that all builds use once you get into the endgame, and it's something that you can unlock earlier if you spend the Defender medals and buy these shards from Gran, the same person that we bought the auto repair shard from. So that would be Ranged Pylon, and this is unlocked at Chaos 10. So it's going to take a long time to get this naturally, so I do recommend buying this with Defender medals, as well as Power Pylon. And this is another one that I recommend buying with Defender medals. Now, there is something to be said about unlocking heroes. And I'm going to have a separate guide about whether you should unlock heroes, what all the heroes do, and so on. But for now, I can say the most important hero is EV2. After that, the rest are just nice. They're cool. And that's the biggest thing. EV2 does bring something special. She brings reflect beams. And this will be very important later on. And she is the one character I'd say is almost necessary to buy. I'm getting sidetracked. So back to Pylons. The best way to do these is to take a defense that has 20 mana cost to place. For example, the Monk and his Lightning Aura only cost 20 mana to place. So I would throw any Relic on. It doesn't matter because this is not going to be a damage build. Throw Ranged Pylon on and throw Power Pylon on. Now what happens is you can place this in between a whole bunch of defenses, and the reason why I suggest the Lightning Aura so much is because the area of the Lightning Aura is the same as the Power Pylon buff radius. So when I place down my Pylon, all four of these Flame Auras are within range of it, and then once they start having a purple glow around it, you'll see it takes effect, and you can also see the range increase on them. And this really will make a huge difference. And you can use these for your Earth Shatter and Poison Dart towers as well, and it doesn't really matter if they're not in the lane. It's not going to do a whole lot of damage anyways. I ended up buying both the Ranged Pylon, the Power Pylon, and the Auto Repair on my Restart account, and it makes a huge difference. So I am speaking from personal experience when I say all this. And to end this video, it's time for random stuff I wanted to put in the video, but didn't know where to put it, so it goes here. The main map is very helpful. On it, you see the green squares. Those are healthy defenses. The yellow squares are injured defenses. The flashing red really fast ones are almost dead defenses. And the ones that are flashing just a little bit red means that they're just taking damage actively. At the end of the game, you'll actually need to collect the chest. All you have to do is move on and it will automatically collect the chest as long as you have auto collect set up. To kill Goblin Siege Rollers, attack him from behind. In this clip, this guy beats me to it, but to kill Drakenlord, first you have to oil him and then fire him. And you can do this using the Huntress, using her 2 ability, the Oil Flask, and her 3 ability, the Fire Phoenix. That will get rid of his shield and allow him to take damage. Now through time you might see this little green guy over here, as much as you might be tempted to go up and talk to him, and see what magical powers he might have of adding Ancient Power, and think, wow, this looks really cool. I would say stay as far away from this as you can until you know what you're doing. There is a process to doing this, and without doing it the right way, you can hinder your progress. I just recommend watching a video about Ancient Power before you actually Ancient Power. I will have a video about that and link it in the description. Thank you all for watching. It's been a joy. I hope you learned something. Feel free to subscribe. It actually really helps the channel out a lot. And I will see you later.